how much longer do you think the Ukraine military can last? How much longer do you think, this is a long-winded question, my apologies, address it as you see fit, President Zelensky can last since his term of office expires at midnight on Monday night?
I think the 1.5 million population city of Kharkiv is a sort of a riposte by Putin for what has been happening around Belgorod in terms of the way the Ukrainians are attacking. I think he's probably looking at the city to the northwest too, and the oblast there, Sumska, I think it's called, and the city is Sumy. And he's just going to do this. He can do this at will, pretty much. And every time he gets some kind of a threat from Ukraine that is into Russia, Belgorod or wherever, he's going to threaten some population center like Kharkiv or Sumy, and threaten the whole oblast. I don't think he wants to get involved in a 1.5 million population city with troops. But he's going to do this, and he's just going to sit back and do it until they fall completely apart and the rest of the coalition, NATO, Washington, London, Paris, with them, because they've lost. And all Putin's going to do is just continue to pound them until, you know, he has no further to go than what he wants to go. I don't think he wants all the rest of Ukraine, but he can certainly threaten them to the extent that they keep putting soldiers out there and they keep losing soldiers.
Colonel, can you see the map that that Chris put up? Because yes, you mentioned Kharkov and you mentioned Sumy. Mm-hmm. Now, they are not shown in this map as being under Russian dominance. Are they now, or are they soon to be?
No, I think the estimates of the military folks that know this scene better than I is that Kharkiv is the first place to be threatened, and it's oblast, and then Sumy might be a follow-up. And just look at what he's doing. He's carving oblast off as he goes along, and there's nothing to stop him now. There's absolutely nothing to stop him. I hear Zelensky talking about, I need Patriot batteries, I need more artillery ammunition, and this money that Congress just approved will get me that ammunition, and I'll be able to stop them. I'm sorry, you are not going to stop the Russians. They simply are not subject to being stopped by what you have remaining, no matter who helps you with what, unless they enter the war themselves. And even then, I would say it'd be a toss-up, because NATO is really a paper tiger when you look at it really closely, including its complement called the United States of America. Mm. I could go on and on about that. I was in the Congress.
Right. Recently, the British made some noise about sending troops, or Lord David Cameron, as he's now known, the defense minister, was talking about sending military gear there, and the Russians responded verbally. And Admiral Kirby was asked what he thought about that response. I think this is an absurd response from Admiral Kirby, but I want you to listen to it and then comment on it. Cut number one.
There's been threats from Moscow in the last couple of days about striking British military facilities because of and also simulating nuclear drills as it sharply rises tensions because of weapons manufactured in the UK being used in the conflict. This says it could potentially apply to other allied countries as well, theoretically the United States. Do you have a response to that?
Well, what I'd say, number one, is it's just reckless and irresponsible for the leader of a major nuclear-armed power to be saber-rattling the way that he is with respect to potential use for nuclear weapons. We monitor this and have continued to monitor this very closely. I can tell you we've seen nothing, even despite the reckless rhetoric, that would cause us to change our strategic deterrent posture. And look, lastly, if Mr. Putin and Russian officials are worried about their troops in Ukraine getting hit with weapons from other countries, then the easiest thing to do is just take your troops and leave.
Isn't that ridiculous for him to say, take your troops and leave after this investment?
Well, the first thing that I would say is that admirals ought to stick to the ocean. Kirby, Kirby,
All right, Colonel, good one.
Kirby has never impressed me, either in his spokesperson capabilities or his military acumen. I don't know why Biden keeps him. I don't know why he keeps Sullivan. I don't know why he keeps Blinken. They're nightmares in terms of diplomacy and good foreign policy. And you know, he's stuck with them, I guess, and he has to. But these comments are just nonsense. What Putin is doing is saying, I know you're thinking that you are desperate. I mean, he's got to be thinking that. We cannot be the idiots we seem to me to him. So I'm telling you, if you bring NATO into this, I have other weapons in my arsenal. I'd be doing the same thing if I were he, because of the bellicosity he sees on the other side. And he's got to be interpreting Washington as being brain dead, because it's so obvious that Ukraine is reeling and there's no admission to it on the Washington scene, or London or Berlin or any of the places.
Secretary Blinken made a surprise visit to Kyiv this week at a meeting with President Zelensky and what appears to be senior members of his government. Secretary Blinken made some promises. We'll run this for you now. Watch how stylized and highly produced this is. There's 3 different cameras. It's almost like they're filming a documentary. I don't know if the United States brought all this camera gear with them, or if the Ukrainians set it up. But watch this, and then I'll be anxious for your thoughts. This is not the secretary in the basement of the bar. We'll play that for you in a minute. This is him with a coat and tie on in a conference room in the president's palace. Cut number 14.
The assistance is now on the way. Some of it's already arrived. More of it will be arriving. And that's going to make a real difference against the ongoing Russian aggression on the battlefield. And we're determined, along with many other partners for Ukraine, to make sure that you succeed on the battlefield. We're equally determined that over time, Ukraine stands strongly on its own feet, militarily, economically, democratically. A strong, successful, thriving, free Ukraine is the best possible rebuke to Putin, and the best possible guarantor for your future. And for all of that, the United States is and will remain a committed partner.
I think this is hogwash, because you can give them all the equipment you want. They don't have the manpower to operate it.
You said it. That almost looked to me like it was staged by a Hollywood director.
Yes, yes.
Even Zelensky's facial expressions and his nodding his head and everything, he knew exactly what to say and when to say it and what to look like. That was for the audience, so to speak. It wasn't for the Russians. Yeah, I guarantee you the Russians are probably chortling at that in their vodka.
Here's President Zelensky responding to what we just heard Secretary Blinken say. Cut number 13.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming to Ukraine, especially these days. Not simple period for Ukraine, and a tough period for the east of our country, for our warriors. Thank you that you came, especially these days, to support Ukraine. We need today 2 Patriots for Kharkiv region, because the people are under attack. Civilians and warriors, everybody, they're under Russian missiles.
When he says he needs batteries, what is he talking about? Artillery?
He's talking about the Patriot batteries, because the Russians have basically air superiority now. And that's what he wants to do something about. Shoot a few Russian planes down, maybe with Patriot batteries. What the Russians will do is take out the Patriot batteries.
Right.
It would be painful if it weren't real. It would be risible if it weren't real. It would be a comedy if it weren't real. And the people paying the price for this are those young people in Ukraine who are dying. And who I understand, as I've said on your show before, are now surrendering anytime they can, because they are dying, and they know they're going to die even more so if they don't. So this is nonsense, and we're using it. This is as bad as Gaza in a different frame of reference. We are enabling genocide in Gaza, and that's reprehensible. In Ukraine, we're enabling the death of Ukrainian young men and women in a fight that is lost. It's over. It's finished. And all Putin's got to do is wrap up the battlefield, mop up the battlefield. That's what he was talking to Xi about in Beijing. I guarantee you that's what he was talking to him about, among other things. But watch this now. You're going to see just how much a deficit there is of brain power, of talent and skill in the West. You're going to see how bereft these leaders are in the West of any notion of how to deal with the world the way it is now. The rules-based order established by the United States in the post-World War II world is over. And you are seeing it demonstrated on the battlefield in Ukraine, and you're seeing it demonstrated glaringly in Gaza.
Colonel, when you have been through this before when you ran the State Department, when we send this kind of equipment over there, A, do we ever expect to get paid for it by the Ukrainians? B, do we ever expect to get it back? Or is it, and the cost of it, gone forever?
I'll answer that by telling you we left billions in Afghanistan, and there's still quite a bit in Iraq. And almost any battlefield you want to visit from Vietnam to the time present, we have left billions of dollars of equipment in the country or countries with whom we were engaged. This is the way we do business. There is no accountability for anyone in the federal structure anymore.
I'm not even going to introduce this, but you'll know who it is. You'll know where he is. And I don't know if you can figure out what he's trying to do. Chris, cut number 16.
The United States is with you. So much of the world is with you. And they're fighting, not just for free Ukraine, but for the free world. And the free world is with you too. So maybe we can try something?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if we can.
I'm glad you saved me from the pain of listening.
What would your colleague, friend, and boss, the late Colin Powell, have thought of a Secretary of State in a subterranean pub in Kyiv in the middle of wartime?
Well, if he'd been president, he would have relieved him of duty. That's what I would have done too. But I would have done it long before this. This man is just, I won't say he's a joke because that's being too kind. He's a disaster. He's a walking disaster. And that he's the Secretary of State of the United States of America is just another example Putin could give to Xi in terms of, you see the skill of these people, you see the talent of these people, you see the lying and obfuscation of these people. These people are not for real. They're just not for real. You should not be scared of them. Not at all. That's a dangerous conversation to be having.
Right. Colonel Wilkerson, a pleasure, my dear friend. It's late on a Friday. It's springtime. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Much appreciated. But look forward to seeing you again soon, hopefully next week.
Thanks for having me.